All right, moving on to 7.3, let's talk about metric ways to measure weight and volume. So starting with weight, let's start with the base unit of weight here, which is the gram. So 1 gram is about the weight of a paper clip. If you had a nickel, then you'd have a few of those paper clips in weight. So a nickel's about 5 grams. And a small box of cereal weighs maybe 320 grams. All right, now let's move back to the milligram. So a milligram is 1/1000th. Milli means thousand. So 1/1000th of a gram, or you could write that as 0.001 grams. So it's a very small unit of weight. If you see someone measuring something on those really fancy looking kind of chemistry scales, the door opens and closes, those would be measuring milligrams or perhaps decimal fractions of milligrams. So because it's very small, you might use it to measure something like a pill. So if you take a pill, you might find it has 200 or 300 milligrams of the active ingredient. All right. So we have a milligram, 1,000 milligrams then is going to be a gram. Okay. So let's say times 1,000 here to get to a gram. And then if we have 1,000 grams, that's going to give us a kilogram. Okay. And you might know that your weight, at least on your driver's license, is measured in kilograms. Go ahead and take a look. If you grew up in Canada, you are probably used to measuring your weight in pounds. That is our convention, but officially Canada is under the metric system. And so on your driver's license, you'll find your weight in kilograms. A metric ton is a very heavy unit of weight. It's 1,000 kilograms. Note how it's spelled, T-O-N-N-E. My dad used to call these tonnes, just to not confuse them with an imperial ton. So imperial tons, we don't really need to talk about in this course, but just so you're aware, an imperial ton is 2,000 pounds. It's actually fairly close to a tonne, let's say, like my dad, of 1,000 kilograms. So the metric ton is 1,000 kilograms. You would use that to measure a really heavy object, maybe a really heavy tractor or a semi-truck. A semi-truck might weigh 10 tons. All right. What basic unit then of measurement would you use to measure the mass of a toonie? Well, this is kind of an interesting question because you could have multiple correct answers here. If you said gram, that's what I would say. You could measure a toonie in gram. If you wanted to be really precise, you could actually also measure it in milligrams, but we'll say grams. You would get several grams for the mass of a toonie. What about the mass of a dose of Tylenol? Well, here that's going to be a pretty small weight, so I would probably measure that in milligrams. But again, there's no one set answer. If you wanted to be extremely precise, if you were working in a pharmaceutical company, perhaps you would be measuring that in micrograms, which is something we haven't talked about here. That's even less. But milligrams is a pretty good unit there. Okay, let's talk about converting between the two. So once again, what we love about the metric system is that it makes it pretty easy to do these conversions. So let's say you have 7 kilograms and you want to get to grams. Well, we're going to follow the same steps we followed before. So step 1, we're going to write it over 1. So we've got 7 kilograms over 1. Just to remind ourselves, we can write that as a fraction. Step 2 is going to be our conversion factor. So here's our conversion factor here. So we want kilograms on the bottom so that those are going to cancel, and grams at the top. So if you look at your formula sheet, you'll find that 1,000 grams equals 1 kilogram. And I'm just going to flip to that too and make sure I can find that with you. Okay, so we are looking at the staircase. And so if you look at the staircase, you can see 1 kilogram equals 1,000 grams. That's on the top of that stair. And can you also find that in your chart? Let's see. Yes, and so if you look at your chart On conversion factors, you'll also find that under the weight, it will say 1,000 grams equals 1 kilogram. So you can get your conversion factor, that's step 2. Step 3 is to multiply it out, which would give you 7,000 grams in this case. All right, next one, here we're converting to a bigger unit of measure. So we've got 5,000 milligrams and we want to get to grams. So step 1, we're going to put it over 1. Step 2, we want to multiply by a conversion factor. So here is our conversion factor. This time we want milligrams on the bottom so they cancel, and we want to be left with grams. So we're going to put the grams on top. 1 gram is the same as 1,000 milligrams, and you'll find that in your formula sheet. Our milligrams cancel. And so here, if you multiply that out, you can either cross simplify like they've done here, or you can go top times top over bottom times bottom. That would give you 5,000 grams over 1,000. And 5,000 divided by 1,000 is what gives you 5 grams. What they've done is they've divided the top and bottom by 1,000, which allows them to cancel out those zeros. So either way, you'll end up here then with an answer of 5 grams.